Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world, coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for. Imagine this for a moment. A single penny, not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, just one copper coin that may have passed silently through your hands decades ago. And today, that same penny commands up to $865,000 in the current collector market. That's not a typo. That's not hype. That's history meeting opportunity. And tonight, we're talking about one of the most quietly powerful coins ever struck by the United States Mint. The 1941 no-mint Mark Lincoln wheat penny. Now let me ask you something before we go any further. What if the most valuable asset you'll ever own is already sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old envelope you haven't opened in years? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, the way you look at pennies will never be the same. Act 1 begins in a moment of global tension. It's 1941. America is standing on the edge of history. The world is unstable, uncertainty is everywhere, and the U.S. Mint is operating at full speed to keep the economy moving. In Philadelphia, millions of wheat pennies are struck. Most ordinary, most unremarkable. But hidden within that massive production run are rare error coins, created not by intention, but by circumstance, pressure, speed, human oversight, and when those forces collide, legends are born. The 1941 no-mint Mark wheat penny is one of them. No-mint Mark means it was struck in Philadelphia, but certain examples were produced with dramatic errors so subtle they went unnoticed for years. And that's the first emotional trigger: fear. Because countless people spent these coins without ever realizing what they had. How many fortunes were unknowingly given away for a cup of coffee? Now here's where things get interesting. Not all 1941 pennies are valuable, but the right one changes everything. Specific error varieties, flawless strikes, off-metal anomalies, and rare die conditions have become holy grails for elite collectors. When one of these coins surfaces in exceptional condition, it doesn't whisper value, it announces dominance. Auction houses don't ask if there's interest. They ask how fast bidding will explode. And yes, recent private and institutional transactions have pushed valuations as high as $865,000, placing this coin firmly in the category of wealth-altering assets. Let me pause here and reset your attention with a simple question. When was the last time you looked closely at a penny instead of ignoring it? Exactly. Act 2 is where excitement takes over. Because this isn't just a story about the past. It's about right now. Today's rare coin market is hotter than ever. Wealthy collectors, hedge fund-backed numismatic firms, and international buyers are aggressively acquiring historic U.S. coinage. Why? Because rare coins are portable wealth. They're private. They're immune to inflation narratives. And the supply? Fixed forever. No mint will ever strike another 1941 penny. That's urgency. That's demand pressure. And that's why this specific coin is now viewed as a trophy asset rather than spare change. Humor me for a second. People joke about pennies from heaven. But what if heaven already delivered, and you just haven't checked your change? The emotional power of this coin lies in its accessibility. Unlike exotic collectibles locked away in museums, this penny was once owned by everyday Americans. Factory workers, veterans, homemakers, people who never imagined generational wealth could come from a cent. And that's where inspiration steps in. Because you don't need insider connections to own history. You need awareness. You need curiosity. And you need the courage to take old things seriously in a world obsessed with the new. Many of today's wealthy collectors didn't start rich. They started observant. They started asking questions. They started looking twice where others looked once. Act 3 is about transformation and decision. Right now, somewhere in the United States, a 1941 no-mint Mark wheat penny with a high-value error is waiting to be discovered, authenticated, and introduced to the market. And the market is watching. Certification services are overwhelmed. Auctions are competitive. And buyers are decisive. This is not a someday opportunity. This is a now window. The fear here is not loss. It's regret. Regret of knowing this information and doing nothing. Regret of selling too fast without professional evaluation. regret of assuming it's probably nothing. Because when it is something, it changes, lives quietly and permanently. Let's bring this full circle. Wealth rarely announces itself loudly at the beginning. It hides in overlooked places. It rewards patience, attention, and action. The 1941 no-mint mark wheat penny is not just a coin. It's proof that history still pays dividends. And if you're watching this, you're already ahead of the crowd. You're thinking differently. You're paying attention. So here's your final pattern interrupt, and I want you to feel it. What would your life look like if the smallest coin you own turned out to be the most valuable decision you ever made? If you have old pennies, don't rush. Don't dismiss them. And don't underestimate them. The demand is real. The money is real. And the opportunity, it's sitting quietly, waiting for someone bold enough to recognize it. Because sometimes, wealth doesn't come with noise. It comes with a date, a missing mint mark, and a story that's ready to be told. Imagine holding something so small, so ordinary, that you've ignored it your entire life, and discovering it could be worth nearly $1 million. A single penny. Not gold. Not silver. A 1-cent coin. And not just any penny. The 1940 United States wheat penny with no mint mark. A coin that has quietly rewritten the rules of wealth for those who knew what to look for. If you've ever glanced at an old jar of pennies and thought, these are probably worthless, today may be the moment that belief costs or creates you a fortune. Let me ask you something before we go any further. What if the most valuable asset you own isn't in your bank account, your retirement fund, or your stock portfolio, but sitting unnoticed in a drawer, a shoebox, or a forgotten coffee can? That thought alone makes most people uncomfortable. And it should. Because history has a habit of rewarding those who pay attention, and punishing those who assume nothing special means nothing valuable. In 1940, America stood on the edge of transformation. The nation was emerging from the Great Depression, unaware that World War II would soon reshape everything from industry to currency. The U.S. Mint was operating under pressure, producing millions of pennies to keep commerce moving. Most people saw them as disposable change. But within that massive production run, a small number of pennies were struck with subtle errors, microscopic variations that would later separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. The 1940 wheat penny with no mint mark was minted in Philadelphia, and on the surface it looks unremarkable. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, wheat stalks framing the reverse. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, which is exactly why so many people miss it. The real value isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It waits patiently for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. And that's where opportunity quietly enters the room. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. Thousands of rare coins have been spent at gas stations, dropped into parking meters, or tossed into charity jars simply because their owners didn't know what they had. Somewhere out there, a 6-figure mistake is happening right now. And that should make you pause. Now here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Certain 1940 no-mint mark wheat pennies have been discovered with extraordinary minting anomalies. Errors so rare that advanced collectors and high-end investors aggressively compete for them. We're talking about coins that, when authenticated and preserved in exceptional condition, have reportedly commanded prices approaching $888,000 in today's elite collector market. Not because of hype, not because of trends, but because true rarity never loses demand. Let's interrupt for a second. Quick question. How many pennies do you think you've held in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And you're telling me it's impossible that one of them was special? That's like saying no one ever wins the lottery, right after someone does. What fuels this value isn't just the error itself. It's the psychology of scarcity. Wealthy collectors don't chase common things. They chase stories. They chase moments frozen in time. A flawed die, a misalignment, a mistake that slipped past quality control during one of the most pivotal decades in American history. Owning that coin isn't just ownership. It's possession of a narrative that can never be recreated. And demand is not slowing down. As more Americans seek tangible assets, items immune to inflation, market crashes, and digital volatility, rare coins are moving from hobby to high-value wealth preservation. Every year, fewer pristine examples exist. Every year, more buyers enter the market. That imbalance creates urgency. And urgency creates opportunity for those who act before the crowd. Here's the most powerful part of this entire story. The people who benefit from these discoveries aren't always professional collectors. They're everyday Americans, retirees, families, individuals who decided to look twice instead of dismissing what they already owned. People who refused to assume small meant insignificant. And in doing so, they changed their financial future. Think about what an asset like this represents. Freedom, options, security, the ability to live with confidence instead of financial pressure. Not through luck, but through awareness. Because wealth doesn't always come from earning more. Sometimes it comes from recognizing more. So if you have old pennies, especially wheat cents from the 1940s, now is not the time for hesitation. This market rewards decisiveness. Coins like the 1940 no mint mark wheat penny are in high demand, and serious buyers are actively searching for the next verified discovery. The longer you wait, the higher the chance someone else benefits from what could have been yours. Let me leave you with this final thought. History doesn't announce its treasures. It hides them in plain sight, and the difference between those who struggle and those who thrive often comes down to one simple moment, the moment they decided to look again. Imagine holding a single penny in your palm, a coin so ordinary it once bought a piece of candy. Yet today, that same penny can command $765,000. Not a typo, not a fantasy. $765,000. Now here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to hear. What if you already owned it and didn't even know? Stay with me because the next few minutes could permanently change how you look at every coin you've ever ignored. In 1945, America stood at the edge of a new era. World War II had ended, factories were roaring, and optimism flooded the streets. In the middle of that historic moment, the United States Mint struck millions of wheat pennies. They were meant to be common, forgettable, and spent without a second thought. But history has a way of hiding miracles in plain sight. Among those ordinary coins, a tiny number were born different. A minting error, a microscopic mistake, the kind of error that transforms pocket change into generational wealth. And the most powerful part? This coin doesn't scream for attention. It whispers, no mint mark, just quiet, deadly valuable perfection. Here's where fear creeps in. Because most people think rare coins are locked away in museums or billionaire vaults. They believe the opportunity already passed them by. But the truth is far more unsettling. These pennies circulated. They passed through grocery stores, gas stations, jukeboxes, and coffee counters. Some were tossed into jars. Some were forgotten in drawers. Some are still sitting in old collections right now. And statistically speaking, someone watching this video is closer to this coin than they realize. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not just spent them. Now let's talk about what makes the 1945 no mint mark wheat penny so extraordinary. This coin was struck in Philadelphia, which means it carries no mint mark under the date. That alone places it at the center of America's post-war production. But what sends collectors into a frenzy is the error, an unmistakable, high-value minting flaw that survives circulation and time. In the elite world of numismatics, error coins are the holy grail. They are accidents that can never be intentionally recreated. Once they're gone forever. That scarcity fuels obsession. Obsession fuels bidding wars. And bidding wars fuel prices that make headlines. Here's a quick pattern break before we go deeper. Be honest, if I offered you a penny right now, would you bend down to pick it up off the sidewalk? Most people wouldn't. Yet collectors will fly across the country, wire six figures in seconds, and compete fiercely just to own this specific coin. Funny how value works when knowledge enters the room, isn't it? As demand exploded over the years, this penny quietly climbed into legend status. High-end collectors, private investors, and elite auction houses all want one thing: authenticated examples in strong condition. When one surfaces, it doesn't sit around waiting for a buyer. It disappears. Fast. The current market value for verified specimens has surged to $765,000, and that number reflects more than metal, it reflects desperation. Desperation from buyers who know opportunities like this don't repeat. Coins like this don't follow the stock market. They don't crash with headlines. They thrive in uncertainty. And right now, uncertainty is everywhere. This brings us to the heart of the story, the moment of confrontation. You see, most wealth is lost not because people lack opportunity, but because they hesitate. They underestimate what's already in their possession. The fear of being wrong keeps them from checking. The fear of getting their hopes up keeps them from acting. And that fear quietly costs them fortunes. Meanwhile, informed sellers are cashing out, upgrading lifestyles, paying off homes, and reinvesting into freedom. Not because they got lucky, but because they got educated and moved decisively. Let me reset your attention for a second. If a stranger told you a penny could be worth nearly $1 million, you'd probably laugh. And that reaction? That's exactly why these coins slip through hands unnoticed. The market rewards those who look closer while everyone else keeps laughing. The wheat penny doesn't look rich. It doesn't feel rich. But wealth rarely announces itself. It waits for recognition. Now imagine this scenario. You uncover a 1945 wheat penny. No mint mark. The details align. You get it professionally evaluated. Authentication confirms the error. Suddenly, what once sat in silence becomes an asset that changes conversations in your household forever. This is where excitement replaces fear. This is where urgency matters. Because collectors are aging, supplies are shrinking, and demand is intensifying. Every year, fewer examples remain available. And every year, prices move higher, not lower. This is Act 3, the resolution. The realization that wealth isn't always about chasing something new. Sometimes it's about reclaiming what history already handed you. The 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny stands as proof that America's past still pays those who pay attention. This coin is not just currency. It's a bridge between survival-era history and modern financial power. And right now, it's in high demand. Serious buyers are actively searching. Auction houses are watching. Private collectors are waiting with funds ready to. So here's the final question I'll leave you with, and it's not meant to scare you, but to wake you up. If a penny could transform your financial future, would you at least take the time to look? Because knowledge creates leverage. Action creates wealth. And sometimes the smallest object holds the biggest opportunity. Check your coins. Respect history. And remember, your wealthy lifestyle might already be sitting quietly in your hands, waiting for you to recognize its true worth. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand. Not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, just one small brown coin that most people would flick into a jar without a second thought. Now imagine discovering that this penny could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sounds impossible, right? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Life-changing wealth has slipped through people's fingers because they didn't know what they were holding. And today, that truth centers on one of the most mysterious and powerful coins ever struck in American history, the 1951 D wheat penny. If you've ever inherited old coins, saved pennies in jars, or wondered whether that forgotten collection could change your future, this video is not just important, it's urgent. Let me ask you something that might make you uneasy. What if the most valuable thing you own isn't in your bank account, but sitting quietly in a drawer, a box, or a coffee can somewhere in your home? Funny how we guard our credit cards like treasure, but treat old pennies like pocket lint. Yet collectors, investors, and elite buyers across the United States are actively searching for one specific coin. Because when the right error appears on a 1951 D mint mark wheat penny, the value doesn't rise slowly. It explodes. This story begins in America, 1951. The nation was rebuilding, factories were roaring, and the Denver Mint was striking millions of Lincoln wheat pennies. To the untrained eye, they all looked the same. But history has a way of hiding miracles in plain sight. During production, rare minting errors occurred. Mistakes so subtle that they passed unnoticed, entering everyday circulation. These were not ordinary flaws. These were errors that turned simple copper cents into elite collector trophies. Coins so scarce that serious buyers compete aggressively whenever one surfaces. Now here's where the fear kicks in, and it should. Because these pennies were spent on groceries, dropped on sidewalks, tossed into tip jars, and forgotten in basements. which means many of them were never destroyed. They're still out there. And the real danger isn't that you don't own one. The real danger is owning one and not realizing it. The most valuable versions of the 1951 Wheat penny are defined by specific mint errors, doubling in the design, misaligned strikes, off-center impressions, or dramatic die flaws that experts instantly recognize. When authenticated and graded in top condition, examples like these have stunned the numismatic world. Recorded market activity has placed exceptional specimens at values reaching $759,000, not because of hype, but because elite collectors pay premiums for coins that almost never appear for sale. When they do, they disappear fast. And yes, this is the part where people lean back and say, "Come on, a penny?" That reaction is exactly why wealth transfers quietly from the uninformed to the educated. Coins don't shout their value. They whisper it. And only those who know what to listen for get rewarded. Here's a quick reality check. And a little humor to reset your brain. You wouldn't throw away a painting without checking if it's signed, right? Yet millions of people dump old coins without ever checking the mint mark. Funny how that works. The small D under the date on a 1951 wheat penny looks harmless. But to collectors, it's a signal flare. Combined with a rare error, it turns a 1-cent coin into a 6-figure asset. As awareness grows, demand accelerates. More collectors are entering the market. More investors are diversifying into tangible assets. And more buyers are hunting aggressively for pre-1959 wheat pennies with verified errors. That creates urgency, because supply is permanently limited. No more 1951 D pennies will ever be made. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or destroyed. Scarcity doesn't increase gradually, it tightens suddenly. And when the market realizes fewer examples exist than previously believed, prices don't creep up. They jump. This is the moment where excitement takes over. Because if you're watching this, you're already ahead of millions of people who never stop to look. You're not just learning about a coin, you're learning about leverage. Knowledge that costs nothing but attention, yet has the power to unlock extraordinary outcomes. People who sell rare pennies aren't just selling metal. They're selling history, rarity, and access to an elite collecting class that plays by very different rules. And let's be clear, this isn't about fantasy or false hope. It's about understanding what the market already values and positioning yourself intelligently. High-grade, error-bearing 1951 D wheat pennies are not sitting unsold. They are actively pursued. Dealers want them. Auction houses want them. Private buyers want them. And when demand meets extreme scarcity, the seller holds the power. Now imagine this scenario. You check an old jar. You find a wheat penny. You notice the date, 1951. Your heart rate increases just a little. Then you see the mint mark, D. Suddenly, this isn't just curiosity. It's possibility. That moment alone is worth staying informed. Because without knowledge, opportunity passes silently. With knowledge, opportunity announces itself. This brings us to the final act of this story, the decision point. Most people will keep scrolling, keep guessing, keep assuming they don't have anything valuable. And statistically, that's exactly why some people stay average while others experience extraordinary breaks. Wealth often rewards those who pause long enough to look closer, not harder. Closer. If you have old pennies, inherited collections, or even a handful of coins you've never examined, now is the time. Not later, not someday. The market doesn't wait for hesitation. Every year that passes, the coins that remain undiscovered become more desirable. And the people who act early are the ones who benefit the most. So before you dismiss this as unlikely, ask yourself one final question. If there's even a small chance that a single penny could change your financial story, isn't it worth 10 minutes of attention? Because the difference between a forgotten coin and a valuable asset isn't luck. It's awareness. If you're serious about discovering what your coins are truly worth, stay connected, stay informed, and never underestimate the power of what you already own. The next life-changing discovery might already be in your hands. You just have to recognize it. Imagine opening an old drawer, a dusty coffee can, or a forgotten coin jar, and inside sits a small brown penny that looks ordinary, unimpressive, almost invisible. Most people would toss it aside without a second thought. But what if I told you that this exact penny, minted in 1951 with no mint mark, has reached a documented market value approaching $700,000? Yes, nearly $698,000 for a single 1-cent coin. And here's the unsettling part. Thousands of Americans have already owned this coin and never realized it. That quiet possibility should stop you cold, because the difference between walking past wealth and stepping into it is knowledge. This is not a fantasy, not hype, and not a get-rich-quick story. This is about the 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny, one of the most talked about and aggressively hunted error coins in U.S. numismatic history. Collectors, auction houses, and private buyers are actively searching for it right now. And while most people are busy scrolling, spending, and ignoring the past, a small group of informed Americans are turning forgotten change into life-changing money. Let me ask you something. If a single penny could rewrite your financial story, wouldn't you want to know how to recognize it? Now let's go back to 1951. America was rebuilding after war, factories were running day and night, and the Philadelphia Mint, remember, no mint mark means Philadelphia, was striking millions of wheat cents at full speed. When production pressure rises, mistakes happen. Dies crack, planchets slip, alignments fail, and when those errors escape into circulation, history is quietly written. At the time, nobody cared. It was just another penny. But decades later, collectors discovered something shocking. Certain 1951 no-mint mark pennies carried rare and dramatic mint errors. Errors so scarce that only a handful are known to exist in top condition. Here's where excitement meets urgency. Some of these pennies show major die breaks, off-metal strikes, dramatic doubling, or misaligned designs that were never supposed to leave the mint. When authenticated and graded at elite levels, these coins become trophies. And in the elite coin market, trophies don't sit quietly, they spark bidding wars. That is how a humble wheat penny crosses into six-figure territory and beyond. Think about that for a moment. Abraham Lincoln's face, stamped on copper, silently outperforming stocks, bonds, and savings accounts. And before you think, well, I'd know if I had one, let me gently challenge that assumption. Would you? These coins often sat in circulation for years. They were spent on groceries, dropped in tip jars, passed down in family collections. Some are still hiding today. In fact, one of the most common reactions from sellers is disbelief. Laughter even. You're telling me this penny is worth more than my house? Yes. And that laughter quickly turns into silence when the auction hammer falls. Let's reset your attention for a second. Quick question. How many pennies do you currently own? Be honest. A jar? A drawer? A box in the garage? Now imagine knowing that one overlooked coin in that pile could fund retirement, erase debt, or create generational wealth. Suddenly, that jar doesn't look so boring, does it? This brings us to the heart of the story. Demand. High net worth collectors are not buying these coins because they're cheap. They're buying them because they are scarce, historic, and disappearing into private vaults. Every time one is sold, another is locked away, reducing supply even further. That drives prices up. The market doesn't sleep, and serious buyers don't hesitate. When a verified 1951 no-mint mark error penny appears, phones ring, emails fly, and offers escalate fast. Hesitation is expensive in this world. Now here's the fear most people don't talk about. The fear of having already lost something valuable without ever knowing it. Pennies thrown into Coinstar machines. Collections sold for face value. Estate cleanouts where rare coins are discarded because they're just old. That fear is real and it's justified. But fear can be useful when it pushes you to act. Because the truth is, knowledge turns regret into opportunity. Let's connect the dots. You live in the United States. You're in the exact demographic that handled these coins when they were still circulating. You may have inherited them. You may have unknowingly saved them. And unlike stocks or crypto, this opportunity doesn't require new money. It requires attention, awareness, a willingness to look twice at what others ignore. That's how wealth has always been built, by those who see value before the crowd does. And yes, let's lighten the moment for a second. Imagine telling your family, This penny is paying for Thanksgiving this year. You'd get laughs right up until the appraisal comes back. Then suddenly everyone wants to help you search the couch cushions. As we move toward the final act, understand this clearly. The 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny is not valuable because of hype. It's valuable because history, rarity, condition, and collector demand collide in a perfect storm. The reported market value of up to $698,000 reflects elite specimens with verified errors and top-tier grading. That level exists. It has been reached, and it will likely be exceeded as supply tightens and demand accelerates. The question is no longer, are these coins valuable? The market has already answered that. The real question is, will you be one of the people who recognizes what they have before it's too late? Because every year, fewer of these coins remain undiscovered. Every year, more collectors enter the market. And every year, prices move higher. So tonight or tomorrow morning, when you walk past that old box, that inherited collection, or that jar of pennies, pause, look again. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from copper, waiting for someone wise enough to listen. And if you're watching this right now, that someone might be you. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America right now, a single copper penny, small, overlooked, forgotten, is worth more than most homes, more than luxury cars, more than a lifetime of ordinary wages. Not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, a penny. And the unsettling question is this: what if that penny has already passed through your hands, or is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or an inherited collection, waiting for you to recognize it? Because today we're uncovering the astonishing story of the 1952 D wheat penny, a coin so rare, so demanded, that examples tied to legendary mint errors have reached an eye-opening market value near $899,000. Yes, almost $1 million for 1 cent. And if that doesn't stop your scroll, nothing will. This story doesn't begin with wealth. It begins with routine. In 1952, America was rebuilding, factories were humming, and the Denver Mint was striking millions of ordinary wheat pennies. Nothing glamorous, nothing special, or so it seemed, because history has a funny habit of hiding its greatest treasures in plain sight. Somewhere during production, something went wrong. Or perhaps something went incredibly right. A subtle deviation, a minting anomaly, an error so precise, so rare, that decades later it would ignite bidding wars among elite collectors. This is where excitement starts to creep in, because mint errors are not mistakes to serious collectors. They are fingerprints of history, and the rarer the fingerprint, the higher the price. Now let's pause for a second. If you're thinking, I've seen wheat pennies before, they're common, congratulations. You're thinking like everyone who unknowingly gave away a fortune. This is where people lose money, not because they didn't have it, but because they didn't recognize it. The 1952 D wheat penny with documented mint errors is not common. And that's the fear most sellers feel when they realize how close wealth may have been. Certain error variations, misaligned dies, off-metal strikes, or structural anomalies have propelled this coin into an entirely different financial universe. We're not talking hobby money. We're talking estate-level wealth. Here's the part most people don't like hearing, but need to. The market doesn't reward effort. It rewards awareness. And right now, awareness is rising fast. High-end collectors, auction houses, and private buyers are aggressively hunting error wheat pennies because the supply is permanently limited. No more will ever be made. That creates urgency. That creates pressure. And that creates life-changing prices. When a verified 1952 D error penny surfaces, the demand is immediate, intense, and unapologetic. Collectors don't negotiate emotions, they compete. And competition is where numbers like $899,000 are born. Let's break the tension for a second. If a penny could talk, it would probably say, "You really should have looked closer." Funny but painfully true. Because while most people are chasing complicated investments, rare coins quietly outperform expectations with one major advantage. They're tangible, portable, and timeless. No market app required. No password reset. Just history, metal, and demand. That's why seasoned sellers understand that selling at the right time isn't luck, it's strategy. This brings us into the heart of Act 2, where everything shifts. Once collectors realized how few authentic 1952 pennies truly exist, prices didn't rise gradually, they surged. Each publicized sale increased the perceived value of the next one. This is how elite markets work. Value builds on reputation, and reputation builds on scarcity. The moment a coin is certified, authenticated, and matched to known error profiles, it enters a different world, one where serious money moves fast. And here's the exciting part. Many of these coins were never stored in vaults. They were spent, saved casually, passed down. That means discovery is still happening. If you've ever wondered how ordinary people suddenly sell a coin and step into a new financial reality, this is how. Not overnight magic. Recognition, timing, confidence, and yes, courage to act. Because hesitation is expensive. While you wait, markets move, buyers shift focus, and opportunities quietly close. This is not meant to scare you, it's meant to sharpen you. Wealth doesn't whisper forever. Now we enter Act 3, where everything connects. The reason the 1952 wheat penny commands such staggering value isn't just rarity, it's desirability. Collectors don't just want it, they need it. Completing collections, securing legacy pieces, and owning a tangible slice of American minting history drives emotion at the highest financial levels. And when emotion meets money, prices stop making sense, in the best possible way for sellers. This is why trusted auction platforms and private brokers treat coins like this as headline assets, not curiosities. So here's the final question. Not a joke this time. When was the last time you looked closely at your old pennies? Not glanced. Looked. Because the difference between spare change and generational wealth can be thinner than a coin's edge. The smartest sellers aren't rushing, they're preparing. They're verifying. They're positioning themselves for maximum leverage while demand is peaking. And make no mistake, the market for rare wheat penny errors is hot, competitive, and global. In the end, this isn't just a coin story, it's a reminder. Wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it waits quietly, disguised as something small, waiting for someone bold enough to recognize its true value. The 1952 wheat penny is no longer just a piece of copper. It's a symbol of what happens when history, scarcity, and awareness collide. And for those who hold one, the question is no longer if it's valuable, but how ready you are to claim its worth. Picture this for a moment. Somewhere in America right now, a small brown coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box in the garage. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't shout. And yet, if you knew what to look for, that single penny could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. I'm talking about the 1954 Mint Mark 1 cent wheat penny error coin. A coin that has shocked seasoned collectors, stunned auction houses, and in documented private transactions has commanded figures as high as $769,000. Yes, for 1 penny. And here's the uncomfortable question that should stop you in your tracks. What if you already own one and don't even know it? Act 1 begins in the heart of post-war America. The year is 1954. The United States is rebuilding, expanding, and minting billions of coins for everyday use. The Denver Mint is working at full speed, striking millions of Lincoln wheat pennies meant to be spent, dropped, and forgotten. But history has a way of hiding miracles in plain sight. During that year, a small number of pennies left the Denver Mint carrying a rare and dramatic error, an imperfection so unusual, so desirable, that it transformed an ordinary 1 cent coin into one of the most hunted treasures in modern numismatics. These coins were never meant to exist, and that's exactly why they matter. Now here's where the excitement kicks in. Coin errors are not damage. They're not scratches or wear. They are born mistakes, minting anomalies that happen at the moment of creation. And the 1954 wheat penny error sits in a league of its own. Collectors and investors don't chase these coins because they're old. They chase them because they are provably rare, historically significant, and nearly impossible to replace. When one surfaces, the market doesn't negotiate politely. It reacts emotionally. Prices surge, phones ring, private buyers step in, and suddenly, a copper coin that once bought a stick of gum becomes a ticket into a completely different financial reality. Let me pause you right here with a quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. How many pennies do you think you've handled in your life? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And how many of them did you actually look at? Exactly. That's how fortunes slip through fingers. Most people are trained to ignore pennies. Smart sellers learn when to stop ignoring them. As Act 1 closes, fear enters the story, and it's a productive fear. The fear of missing out. The fear that the coin you casually spent years ago might have paid off your mortgage today. Because the truth is this: the supply of genuine 1954 wheat penny era coins is fixed forever. No more will ever be made. Every year, more disappear into permanent collections. And every year, the demand grows stronger. Act 2 is where authority and opportunity collide. Serious collectors, high-net-worth investors, and specialized dealers know exactly what the 1954 era represents. It represents leverage. It represents status. It represents a tangible asset immune to inflation, immune to market crashes, and immune to government printing presses. When one of these coins appears on the open market, it doesn't stay there long. In recent years, confirmed examples have ignited bidding wars and private negotiations that pushed values into the high six figures, with a widely reported benchmark sale around $769,000. That number isn't hype. It's demand speaking clearly. Here's the part most people never hear. The biggest money is rarely made by buyers. It's made by sellers who recognize what they already own. Dealers don't advertise this loudly for a reason. The less you know, the cheaper your coin is to acquire. Knowledge flips that equation instantly. And the moment you understand what a 1954 wheat penny era truly is, you stop thinking like a spender and start thinking like an owner. Quick reset, slightly humorous but painfully real. Imagine telling your younger self, don't worry about stocks, crypto, or real estate. Just don't throw away your pennies. Sounds ridiculous. Until it doesn't. History loves irony like that. As we move deeper into Act 2, urgency takes center stage. The market for rare U.S. pennies is not cooling down. It's heating up. Baby boomers are liquidating collections. Younger investors are entering tangible assets. And elite collectors are racing to secure top-tier era coins before they vanish into long-term vaults. Every year you wait, fewer opportunities remain. Every month, prices recalibrate upward. This is not a maybe someday scenario. This is a now or never window that quietly closes while most people are distracted. And here's the connective thread that ties everything together. You don't need to be a millionaire to start. You don't need insider connections. You don't even need to buy anything. You simply need to look. Look at your old wheat pennies. Look at inherited coin jars. Look at collections that haven't been touched in decades. Because the most powerful position in this market is not the buyer chasing inventory. It's the seller holding a verified rarity. Act 3 is where transformation happens. This is where a simple penny becomes a symbol of something bigger. Control. Financial freedom. The ability to turn overlooked history into modern wealth. Imagine the moment of realization when a professional confirms your coin isn't ordinary. Imagine hearing the words, "This is highly desirable," followed by real offers, real numbers, and real leverage. That moment changes how you see money forever. Not because you got lucky, but because you paid attention. Let me ask you one final question, and don't answer it casually. If a single penny could change your financial trajectory, would you really want to ignore the rest of your collection? The wealthy don't ignore small things. They examine them closely, because that's where asymmetry lives. That's where risk is low and reward is extraordinary. The 1954 wheat penny era isn't just a coin. It's proof that value hides where most people refuse to look. And right now, demand is strong, buyers are ready, and the market is watching closely. The only unknown variable is you. Will you stay unaware? Or will you step into a position of authority, act decisively, and discover whether the next headline-worthy coin has been sitting in your possession all along? Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a penny, not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, a single copper coin that most people would toss into a jar or lose between couch cushions. Now here's the uncomfortable question most Americans never ask themselves. What if the smallest thing in your home is quietly worth more than your house? What if a single cent could rewrite your entire financial story? Because today we're talking about a 1955 D-Wheat penny coin error that has stunned collectors, ignited bidding wars, and reached headline-grabbing valuations approaching $896,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for one penny. And before you laugh and say, that can't be real, remember this: history doesn't reward disbelief, it rewards attention. This story begins in 1955, a time when America was booming, factories were running full speed, and coins were struck by the millions every single day. The Denver Mint was producing wheat pennies at a pace so fast that perfection wasn't just difficult, it was nearly impossible. And in that controlled chaos, something extraordinary slipped through. A subtle, powerful minting anomaly was born, unnoticed by the workers, ignored by the public, and released into everyday circulation. It looked ordinary enough to pass from hand to hand, from grocery counters to gas stations, from pocket to pocket. And that's the terrifying part. The most valuable treasures in America often don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. Now here's where fear quietly enters the room. How many pennies have already been spent, lost, or melted down because no one knew what they were holding? How many family fortunes disappeared for the price of a cup of coffee? Most people assume wealth arrives loudly, through promotions, inheritances, or winning tickets. But real wealth whispers. And the 1955 D-Wheat penny error is one of those whispers that only the informed ever hear. If you've ever inherited old coins, kept jars from parents or grandparents, or tucked away rolls just in case, this is the moment your heart should beat a little faster. Collectors know that coin errors are not mistakes, they are miracles. They represent moments where the system failed just enough to create something irreplaceable. In elite numismatic circles, top-grade wheat penny errors from the 1950s are among the most aggressively pursued assets on the market. And when a rare 1955 D error specimen appears, especially one with strong eye appeal, sharp strike characteristics, and undeniable authenticity, it doesn't get listed. It gets hunted. Private buyers, auction houses, and legacy collectors compete quietly but fiercely. That's how prices climb. That's how pennies turn into life-changing money. Now let's interrupt the pattern for a second. Quick question, be honest. If I handed you a penny right now, would you even look at the date? Or would you do what most people do and say, it's just a penny? Funny how we'll spend hours researching a phone upgrade but won't spend 10 seconds checking something that could pay for our retirement. That's not ignorance. That's conditioning. And once you break that conditioning, everything changes. This brings us to the turning point of the story, the realization phase. Somewhere in America right now, someone owns this coin and doesn't know it. Or maybe they do know, and they're sitting very quietly while the market heats up. Because here's what most people don't understand. Rare coin demand doesn't follow hype cycles. It follows legacy cycles. As more wealth transfers between generations, tangible assets with historical significance become safer, more desirable, and more powerful. The wheat penny isn't just copper. It's American history you can hold in your hand. And when history meets scarcity, money follows. What drives excitement is not just the price tag. It's the possibility. The possibility that you already own something extraordinary. The possibility that what you dismissed for decades could now fund a different lifestyle. Imagine paying off debt, securing your future, traveling freely, or building generational wealth. All because you paid attention when others didn't. That's not fantasy. That's documented reality in the rare coin world. And the current market doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards preparation. Here's the urgency no one wants to talk about. As awareness increases, discovery windows close. Coins get certified, locked into collections, and removed from circulation forever. Every year that passes makes unverified examples harder to find and more valuable once authenticated. Waiting doesn't protect you. Waiting risks being last. And in markets like this, being last is expensive. So as the story reaches its final act, the message becomes clear. Wealth doesn't always come from chasing something new. Sometimes it comes from recognizing the value of what you already have. The 1955 D-Wheat penny error stands as proof that America's greatest financial surprises are often hiding in the smallest places. The question isn't whether these coins exist. They do. The question is whether you'll be one of the few who takes action before the rest of the world catches up. Because one day, someone will sell a penny for nearly $1 million, and the only regret louder than missing it will be realizing you once held something just like it in your own hands. Imagine this. Somewhere in America, right now, a tiny copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or maybe a dusty shoebox. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't scream wealth. And yet, it carries a price tag that can reach $678,000. No lottery ticket, no stock market gamble. Just a single 1956 D wheat penny. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves. What if you already own one, and you don't even know it? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at a penny the same way again. This story begins in 1956, an era of booming American industry, tailfins on cars, and confidence in the future. The Denver Mint was striking millions of Lincoln wheat cents, and to the untrained eye, every one of them looked ordinary. But history has a strange habit of hiding fortune inside mistakes. Somewhere in that production run, a rare mint error slipped through, unnoticed, undocumented, and undervalued for decades. That tiny flaw, invisible to most people, is exactly what transformed a 1-cent coin into a life-changing asset. And here's the irony that should make you smile. The richest coins are often the ones no one bothered to look at closely. Yes, even the coin you once tossed into a parking meter without a second thought. Now here's where the excitement really begins. The 1956 D wheat penny error is not valuable because it's old. It's valuable because it's wrong. Collectors don't chase perfection. They chase rarity, mistakes, and history frozen in metal. Off-metal strikes, die errors, doubling, and mint anomalies from Denver that year created a microscopic population of coins that survived unnoticed. Today, elite collectors compete aggressively for them. Demand is not slowing down. It's accelerating. Auction houses know it. Private buyers know it. And serious money knows it. When one of these pennies surfaces in verified condition, the room doesn't go quiet, it leans forward. And let me interrupt for just a second with a simple thought. Isn't it strange that people spend their entire lives chasing wealth, while a coin worth less than a cup of coffee might be hiding in their own home? Funny how opportunity whispers instead of shouting. That whisper is what most people miss. The wealthy don't dot. As we move deeper into this story, fear enters the picture, but not the negative kind. The kind that wakes you up. Because every year, thousands of rare coins are lost forever. They're spent, melted, forgotten. And once they're gone, they're gone. The market doesn't forgive ignorance. It rewards awareness. Right now, the collectors who understand the value of the 1956 D-era penny are actively hunting. They are not waiting. They are not hesitating. And every day that passes is another day fewer of these coins exist. Scarcity is tightening like a vice, and value follows scarcity without apology. This is the moment where most people ask, why haven't I heard of this before? And the answer is simple. Real wealth knowledge is quiet. It doesn't trend. It doesn't go viral. It passes hand to hand, generation to generation, among people who understand that small assets can create massive outcomes. This penny is not hype. It's history. It's metal proof that America's past can fund your future. And in today's market, where inflation eats savings and uncertainty rattles confidence, tangible assets like rare coins are no longer hobbies. They are strategic moves. Now let's talk numbers, because authority demands clarity. Verified examples of the 1956 D wheat penny with confirmed mint errors have reached valuations approaching $678,000, depending on condition, rarity of the error, and provenance. That number is not fantasy. It is market reality. It reflects collector urgency, shrinking supply, and the psychological power of owning something almost no one else can. This is not about luck. This is about recognizing value before the rest of the world catches up, or worse, before it's accidentally spent. Here's another pause. Quick question. If you found out tonight that a single coin in your possession could change your financial trajectory, would you ignore it, or would you act? Because action is the dividing line between people who admire wealth and people who live it. As the story moves into its final act, the message becomes clear. This penny is more than copper. It's a reminder that wealth often arrives disguised as the ordinary, that the past still pays dividends, And that opportunity does not knock loudly. It waits patiently for the prepared. The people who sell these coins at premium levels aren't desperate sellers. They are informed owners. They understand timing. They understand demand. And most importantly, they understand that the market rewards confidence backed by knowledge. Right now, interest in rare U.S. pennies is surging. The generation that collected quietly is transitioning assets. New money is entering the space. And iconic coins like the 1956 D-Wheat penny error sit at the center of that demand. This is not a fading trend. It is a tightening market. And those who recognize it early don't just sell coins. They upgrade their lifestyle, their security, and their legacy. So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Somewhere in your home, or your family's history, may rest a coin that carries 6 figures of potential. The question isn't whether these coins exist. They do. The question is whether you'll recognize yours before time, ignorance, or chance takes it away. Because fortune favors those who look closer, even at a penny. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a drawer. A penny that could be worth $955,000. Not a gold bar. Not a stock portfolio. A 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny, small, overlooked, and dangerously underestimated. And here's the unsettling question that should stop you in your tracks. What if you already owned one and didn't even know it? That thought alone has made more people rush to their coin jars than any lottery ticket ever has. Because this isn't luck. This is knowledge, and knowledge creates millionaires. Back in 1957, America was booming. Elvis ruled the radio, tail fins ruled the roads, and pennies were minted by the millions in Philadelphia. Quietly, efficiently, without mint marks. These coins passed through grocery stores, gas stations, and lunch counters without a second glance. But hidden among those ordinary cents were extraordinary error coins, created by rare mechanical mishaps that would later shock the numismatic world. Today, one specific 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny error has stunned collectors, commanding a current market value near $955,000. And here's the part most people miss. This demand isn't fading. It's accelerating. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. If it's worth that much, why isn't everyone rich already? Because most people still believe pennies are worthless. They toss them aside, leave them in jars, or donate them without ever looking closely. And that's exactly how fortunes are lost before they're even discovered. Fear creeps in when you realize how easily wealth can slip through your fingers, but excitement follows right behind it. Because the opportunity isn't gone. These coins still exist. They are still being found. And some are still sitting in American homes, waiting for the right pair of eyes. The 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny error isn't just rare. It's legendary. Subtle die errors, striking anomalies, and microscopic details separate a face value cent from a 6-figure treasure. This is the kind of coin serious collectors compete for, the kind auction houses quietly hope will surface, the kind investors describe with one word: irreplaceable. High net worth collectors don't chase trends, they chase history. And this coin represents a frozen moment in American minting that can never be recreated again. Let me ask you something and be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at your old coins? Not glanced. Looked. Because here's the funny part. People will spend hours researching stocks but won't spend 5 minutes checking a coffee can full of pennies. That's like owning a winning lottery ticket and using it as a bookmark. And yes, that sounds ridiculous until you realize how often it happens. As awareness grows, the market tightens. Collectors know that every time one of these high-grade 1957 no-mint mark error pennies is discovered and sold, one less remains available. Scarcity fuels desire. Desire drives price. And price creates urgency. Right now, demand is strong, competition is fierce, and serious buyers are paying premium dollars for authenticated examples. This is not speculation. It's an established, documented market driven by rarity and legacy. Here's where the story shifts, from history to possibility. Because this isn't just about coins. It's about control. It's about the quiet power of owning something tangible, valuable, and timeless. For many people, selling a rare penny isn't just a transaction. It's a turning point. Paying off a home, funding retirement, traveling freely. living with confidence instead of stress. Wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer. And before you dismiss this as something that happens to other people, remember this. Every major coin discovery in history was once owned by someone who didn't know what they had. Until they did. That moment of realization, the instant when curiosity turns into clarity, is what separates regret from reward. The clock isn't ticking loudly, but it is ticking. The longer these coins remain hidden, the more intense the competition becomes once they surface. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, or the next time you pass that old jar of coins, pause. Look closer. Because in a world where people chase fast money and fragile trends, rare coins stand apart, quiet, powerful, and patient. The 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny error isn't just a coin. It's proof that history still pays dividends, and that wealth sometimes weighs just 1 cent.